Welcome to this week's Bible Topics discussion. We're glad you're with us today as we discuss marriage in heaven. It's a question that has puzzled people for ages, and thankfully the Bible does address it. Matthew chapter 22 verse 30 says, "At the resurrection, people will neither marry nor be given in marriage. They will be like the angels in heaven."
I'd like to address 2 points in this verse. It says we will be like angels in heaven. It doesn't say we will be angels in heaven or become angels in heaven. Angels are beings that God created to carry out His will and to minister to us. We addressed this in an earlier video, number 38, entitled Angels, if you'd like to go back and look at it. The second point I'd like to address in this verse is the first part where it says, we will neither marry nor be given in marriage. Many people have a bit of trouble thinking that they and their spouse will go to heaven but not exist as husband and wife. If you think about why God created marriage, it's a little easier to understand. In Genesis, it says that it wasn't good for Adam to be alone. So God created Eve for him to be his helpmate. In heaven, there will be no loneliness or need for help from anyone. There will be no need for companionship. There will be no need to create families because we'll all be family. Everyone will love everyone. It's a difficult thing to think about, but heaven is going to be so much better than anything we've ever experienced here on earth. Marriage, companionship, having babies, all of that will dim in the presence of Jesus. It appears from what the Bible says about heaven that it's really going to be a shock to us, in a good way.
When you think about it, this verse and all that it means might actually be pretty comforting to some folks, like those who aren't too crazy about their spouse. They may be thinking, hey, when I get to heaven, I'll be free. Well, here is a verse they might like, but it also reinforces the fact that there's no marriage in heaven. It's 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 39, which says, "A woman is bound to her husband as long as he lives. But if her husband dies, she is free to marry anyone she wishes, but he must belong to the Lord." Common sense would tell us that this is also true for the husband if the wife dies. So you see, at the death of a spouse, the marriage bond is released. So you wouldn't expect to be married to that person in heaven. If a spouse dies and the living spouse remarries, he or she couldn't expect to be married to the first spouse in heaven.
That's right. And the Bible actually addresses that also in Luke chapter 20, verses 27 through 36, which says, "Some of the Sadducees who say there is no resurrection came to Jesus with a question. 'Teacher,' they said, 'Moses wrote for us that if a man's brother dies and leaves a wife but no children, the man must marry the widow and raise up offspring for his brother.' Now there were 7 brothers. The first one married a woman and died childless. The second and then the third married her, and in the same way the 7 died, leaving no children. Finally the woman died too. Now then at the resurrection, whose wife will she be, since the 7 were married to her?" Jesus replied, "The people of this age marry and are given in marriage. But those who are considered worthy of taking part in the age to come and in the resurrection from the dead will neither marry nor be given in marriage, and they can no longer die, for they are like the angels. They are God's children, since they are children of the resurrection."
Well, that's it for this week. Please like, comment, and share. The topic was just a little bit deep, so you may have questions or comments. We would love to hear from you. See you next week. Be blessed.